All right, ready to dive into Machiavelli?
Let's do it.
We're talking Niccolo Machiavelli. Not the, evil, mustache-curling villain you might picture,
Right.
but the Renaissance diplomat and political thinker, whose work, The Prince, is still debated centuries later. Wild.
Yeah, The Prince is really something. What's so interesting is he wrote it during a crazy time in Italy.
Oh, right, totally. Like, super politically unstable.
Exactly. Tons of power struggles, shifting alliances, you name it. And he was right in the thick of it. As a diplomat, strategist, so that experience really shaped his ideas about power and leadership.
You can totally see how that would... So, okay, he's writing The Prince during all this chaos, but what's the goal? What's he trying to do?
Well, get this. He was actually trying to get back in good with the Medici family.
No way. The Medicis.
Yeah, like talk about a high-stakes job application, right?
Seriously. Hey, powerful family, I wrote this guide on how to rule maybe ruthlessly. Hire me.
Haha, basically. That context makes it even more fascinating, makes you wonder, was he serious?
Right? Like, was he truly saying be cutthroat, or was there some irony there? Even satire?
It's tough to say for sure, but it definitely shows he understood power. Like, he was demonstrating to the Medici, I get how this world works, and I can help you.
So maybe it was more about, showing off his grasp of real politics.
Exactly. Realpolitik. It's all about pragmatism, getting things done, even if it means putting morality aside.
Ooh, that's a tricky one.
It is. Machiavelli had this famous line, power is the pivot on which everything hinges.
Okay, I'm listening.
He who has the power is always right, the weaker is always wrong. Strong stuff.
Wow. Yeah, no kidding. It's like he's saying might makes right.
It can definitely sound that way, but gotta keep in mind his context. He was living in a world where power struggles were constant. Survival depended on tough choices.
So for him, that harsh view of power was just the reality.
Yeah, he saw it as the way things were, and he argued a ruler's main job is to maintain stability and security, no matter what, even if it meant doing things that seemed harsh.
So the ends justify the means? Is that what we're getting at?
That phrase is basically glued to Machiavelli, right?
I mean, it seems to fit.
It does run through his work, yeah. But gotta remember, context a key. He wasn't saying any action is okay. No matter how awful, his focus was on the ruler's duty to the state, to keep things in order and safe.
So, okay, I'm trying to picture this. A Machiavellian leader, they might choose to, negotiate with an enemy.
Right, even if it means making concessions. Better than a costly war.
Right, right. Or they might put down a rebellion, quickly and harshly.
Exactly, using force, if needed, to stop wider chaos and bloodshed. These are tough calls, right? But from that Machiavellian view, they could be serving the greater good.
I see that. But man, this line of thinking, it seems like it could get really dangerous. Like, where's the line between being practical and being a tyrant?
That's the big debate with Machiavelli, and it's why we're still talking about him today. He forces us to face these uncomfortable questions about power, about morality, about the choices leaders make.
Yeah, he doesn't give any easy answers, that's for sure.
Nope.
But that's what makes him so fascinating, and definitely makes you think.
For sure. And it's not just, world leaders facing these things.
Oh, totally.
We all have tough choices sometimes, right? Weighing consequences, maybe bending the rules a little.
It's like that chess analogy, right? It's got to think ahead, anticipate your opponent, sacrifice a pawn sometimes.
Exactly. And Machiavelli, he was like a master chess player. Metaphorically, of course. He understood that power dynamics are everywhere. Relationships, work, everything.
Oh, for sure.
He famously used this analogy, the fox and the lion, to describe a good ruler.
Ah, yes, the fox and the lion. Classic Machiavelli.
Right, the cutting fox outsmarts enemies, uses tricks, deception, and the lion, all strength and fierceness, ready to roar.
So a leader needs both. Be sneaky like a fox and powerful like a lion.
Exactly. He said you need both, knowing when to use each.
That's interesting. So how would we even see that in, everyday life?
Oh, totally. Think about a job interview.
Okay, yeah.
You need that lion confidence to present yourself well, show off your skills.
Make a good impression.
Right. But you also need the fox, to kind of feel out the situation, tailor what you say, maybe even anticipate questions.
Ooh, so a little Machiavelli in all of us, maybe. I like that. Speaking of which, I was looking at those Dear Nikki letters you sent.
Oh, yeah. Those are fun.
People writing in for advice, like Machiavelli's an agony aunt. It's so cool to see how his ideas could apply to, regular problems.
Totally. Like this one, a student's classroom is just nuts. Teacher can't control it. No one's learning. What would Machiavelli say?
Okay, yeah, I'm picturing Machiavelli giving advice. What would he tell this student?
He definitely wouldn't say, just sit there and take it. Or just complain.
Right, he'd want action.
Exactly. Use your virtue to deal with it.
Virtue. Another big Machiavelli thing, right?
Yep. People translate it as virtue, but it's more about skill, talent, willpower, that inner strength to shape your own path, even when things are tough.
So what would he tell the student to do? Like overthrow the teacher?
Maybe not that extreme. He'd want something smarter. Remember, Machiavelli was all about power dynamics, using them to your advantage. He might say, gather proof.
Proof, like how bad the class is.
Exactly. Write down the disruptions, missed lessons, whatever. Then I take it to someone higher up. The principal, maybe.
Ooh, clever. So it's not just doing something, it's doing it the right way, using your cunning instead of just force.
Exactly. Being the lion and the fox, brave enough to act, but smart about it too. Let's look at another letter. This student's running for school president, but the competition is fierce.
Okay, yeah, that's totally the prince scenario. What kind of Machiavellian stuff would work there?
Well, he'd say alliances are key.
Right. Got to make friends, build support.
Yep. Find those important people, make connections, make promises, even if those promises might change later on.
Ooh, so a little sneaky deception there.
Maybe. Machiavelli knew politics can be ruthless, even in school. He might even say, point out your opponent's flaws, while making yourself look perfect.
Like a smear campaign. But wouldn't he also say, don't be too obvious about it?
Totally. Appearances matter. Big time. Machiavelli was all about that. He'd say, keep up a front, fairness, good sportsmanship, all that, while working behind the scenes to win.
So kind of like a magic trick. Looking all virtuous on the outside, but secretly pulling the strings.
Perfect analogy. And this applies to way more than just politics, right? Networking, business, even family stuff. Those Machiavellian ideas, strategy, perception, power, super useful tools.
You know, it makes me rethink that whole Machiavelli's evil thing.
Yeah.
It's more like he just saw how people really are, understood power and how to use it, whether you think that's good or bad.
I think that's a great point. He wasn't saying be immoral. He was just showing how power works in the real world. Maybe a little cynically, but still.
Yeah, like he's giving us this crash course in how people act, but then it's up to us to decide what to do with it.
Exactly, which leads to another interesting thing, how he saw the role of the people in a state or in society.
Okay, this sounds juicy. Give me more Machiavelli mind games.
Well, get this, his view of the people is kind of contradictory.
Ooh, a contradiction. Love it. What do you mean?
On one hand, he's all about a strong leader, someone decisive who keeps order, even if you got to be ruthless sometimes. He kind of implies the masses are, easily swayed by emotions, not really able to govern themselves.
So kind of looking down on the average person.
You could see it that way, yeah. But then on the other hand, he also says popular support matters. A ruler can't stay in power long if the people don't, at least kinda, go along with it.
So it's not just about force. You've got to have the people on your side, even a little.
Exactly. And this is where it gets really interesting. He says a smart ruler will get that support. Not necessarily by being truly loved or admired, but by using fear, respect, and a really carefully crafted image.
Oh, so back to appearances again. Looking good is just as important as being good.
Totally. And it makes you think, right, about what leadership really is, the balance between power and doing the right thing, and what role the people actually have. Is it enough for a leader to just look like they're doing good? Or do their actions have to actually be good?
Man, that's a question for the ages. And Machiavelli just throws it out there for us to think about. So it's like he's saying looking good is as important as actually being good, at least if you want to stay in power.
Yeah, it does raise some ethical questions there, right? Like, is it okay for a leader to be deceitful, even if they think they're doing it for the right reasons? Where's the line between good leadership and just being manipulative?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Makes you wonder, are there any leaders today who seem to fit that Machiavellian mold?
Well, I think we got to be careful about just labeling someone Machiavellian because it's often used as a bad thing.
Right, right.
But if we look at those core ideas, right? Pragmatism, strategy, knowing how the public sees things and using that, we can kind of see echoes of Machiavelli in a lot of successful leaders throughout history even.
So not necessarily dictators or anything, but even like leaders we consider good.
Exactly. Think about leaders who've had to make hard choices, who've had to compromise, who really got that public image as important and used that. These are all things Machiavelli was talking about way days when.
So it's almost like he's giving us a way to understand not just the ideal leader, but like what leadership is actually like in the real world with all its messiness.
Yeah, I don't like a great way to put it. He's not giving us this romanticized view, like here are the virtues, follow them blindly. He's showing us the truth about power, ambition, the tough choices leaders face, and it's not always pretty.
Yeah, and it makes us think, right, about the leaders we choose, what qualities we actually want in them, what compromises we're okay with.
Exactly. It's really interesting to imagine what Machiavelli would think of, like, politics today, with the news cycle and social media and everything, that constant fight for attention.
Oh man, he'd have a field day with Twitter.
Right. Imagine the Machiavellian tweets.
Oh, they'd be amazing. And maybe a little scary.
Probably both, but I think his message would still be the same. Understand power, use it strategically, and never underestimate how people see things.
Well, we've definitely gone deep on Machiavelli today, explored his ideas, his strategies, even tried applying it to today. So, big picture, what's it all mean? What should we take away from all this?
I think the main thing is, even though Machiavelli gets a bad rap, he gives us a really useful way to look at power and leadership.
Oh, for sure.
He makes us ask hard questions, see the uncomfortable truths, and really think about the choices we make, as individuals and as a society.
And he doesn't give us easy answers, which is probably a good thing.
Right. It's on us to figure things out.
He's pushing us to, like, have a conversation, look at things from different sides, and come to our own understanding of what it means to lead, to follow, to deal with all the power dynamics out there.
Yeah, and he reminds us that power, whether it's in politics or work or even our personal lives, it's a game with high stakes. And you got to be strategic, smart, and really understand how people work.
So the next time you see a leader or a decision or something that just feels kind of Machiavellian, remember, it's not about just saying that's good or that's bad. It's about trying to get at what are the motives, the strategies, what could happen because of it.
It's about asking those tough questions and making up your own mind.
Exactly. And hey, maybe a little bit of Machiavellian thinking, used the right way, could even help us reach our goals, deal with tough situations, make our own mark on the world.
I like that.
Well, that's a wrap on our deep dive into Machiavelli. Thanks for diving with us. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those brains buzzing.